Welcome back to another episode of Tech Tuesday. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you know when we upload a new video. As always, I'm MJ, your product support manager here at JBS Equipment. And today, I'm going to be showing you how to disassemble this E-Series beater. Now, before we do that, we need to remove it from the spreader. Check out this video on how to do that. Let's get to it. Okay, as you can see, the beater is free of the spreader. Step one, we got to remove some stuff from the top. I'll show you how that's done. So, as you can see, protective cover on top of the beater. It is held on with some 3/8 nylocks. I'm going to pop those off. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Also some washers here. Okay, this should, oh look at that, pops right off. To reveal, let's set this down before I continue to talk. Okay, once you've got the cover off, we now have access to our grease lines and the bearings. Reason being, we need to disconnect these grease lines and loosen the set screws in the bearings so that we can remove this whole top bar section. Okay, these grease lines are a push-to-connect style. I like to use a pair of needle nose pliers to grab a hold of the grease line. Now, you grab a hold of it, push it in, and then there's a little retaining collar on the adapter. We will get myself suited here. So you'll grab a hold of this, push it in, hold the little collar with your thumb, pops right out. Now, if these have been in here for a long time, you might need 2 pairs. One to push and then one to release the collar with. Anyways, push this. Generally, they pop right out. Next, there are 2 set screws per bearing. We'll grab some Allen keys here. Thinking it's a 4 millimeter Allen key. A little bit of a wiggle. You want to crack these loose, back them out a turn or so. Just like that. That's this side. Okay. Where is this one? Right here. Pop that out. Cool. There we go. I'll show you what the next step is. Now, before we go and undo any more bolts, we're going to use a couple straps and the crane, and we're going to rig this top bar up. We're just going to take the slack out of it. We don't want to put any tension on it quite yet. Just like that. So, on either side of here, inside of these holes, are 2 bolts, 2 per side. 27 millimeter socket, buzz those right out. Okay, once you've got all of the bolts out of there, it's time to lift it on up. Now, be careful and keep an eye on those grease lines that are popped out of there. We don't want to pinch or rip those off. Now, it may want a little bit of persuasion. That's where the old rubber mallet comes in. A little bit of tension on it. Back up. Just like that. And as mentioned before, pull these off to the side. We don't want to ruin these. There we go. Okay, I'll go set that down, show you what to do next. In order to remove each one of the screws, there is a 14mm threaded hole in the end. We will thread in a lifting device and hook it up to the crane. Now, prior to lifting this up and out, I want to show you guys something. Okay, prior to lifting the screw out, I always like to rotate the beaters to where they're all in a line. Now, if you notice, there's a weld seam here. On the other side, there's a weld seam there. And this side's pointing to the center of this one. I always like to rotate them like this so it's easy to index when we put them back together. Lines the gearbox back up. Now, if your gearbox is failed, broken gears, broken shaft, this won't be possible. And you can continue on to start lifting the screws off. Okay, here we go. Now, this might go without saying, but always pick up the beater that has the hockey stick over top of the other plate, not vice versa. We could knock things over. All right, let's do this. Okay, for the majority of you, this is as far as we need to disassemble, pulling the screws out. You can do seals, bearings, even some minor gear replacements by going this far. But if you need to fully remove the gearbox from the frame, there are 10 bolts on either side that you need to remove. 22mm socket and wrench, pop those out, and then you can lift the whole frame right off the gearbox. One little tidbit I'd like to show you guys. Prior to putting everything back together, let's say I had this all apart, things got moved around. All of these splines should be in a line like shown with our little straight edge here. Okay, as you guys noticed, this was the last beater to come out, so it's definitely the first to go back in. Let's do it. Now, when you go to lower this down, come down very slowly and gently. You'll kind of feel the female spline line up with the output shaft. Get her on top and then just rock it, and all of a sudden it'll go thunk and you'll be all lined up. Drop it straight down. Once again, we have these welds all lined up. These lobes, or kidney lobes like I like to call them, are opposite of each other. The flights have a nice stagger. It's pretty much all we need here. All right, on to the next step. One thing you got to make sure when we go to put this back on is that the, let's see if I can spin this around a little bit. These grease adapters are facing the same side as the grease line. And once again, make sure we don't pinch this when we install this. Okay. Come down here. Slide in between. Now, sometimes the frame will kind of spring inwards. Nothing a little bit of rubber mallet action can't hurt or can't help with. There we go. Okay. Okay, we got that one lined up. Let's just move the ladder here and check on the other side. Basically, when we're dropping this down, we want to make sure it's lined up fore and aft, and the little spigot stub end on the beater screw lines up with the bearing. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Where are we lined up with this? Oh, pretty good actually. Go down a little bit more. This down. Okay. That appears to be right on the money. Go ahead and we'll pop the bolts in each side, and then we'll come back and we'll retighten down the set screws and the bearings and hook the grease lines back up. Okay, I already got the bolts in that side, but they're not tight. I always recommend you get all the bolts in first, then tighten them up. Here's our little pinch bar here. Get the holes to line up. 27mm socket. Use it as a guide, we'll thread it in there. Okay, we got that one in. Give this a peek, looks pretty good. Run the, oh yeah. Another thing, always run them in by hand a few threads first. Don't just revert right to the Ugga-Dugga machine. Boom, there we go. I'll go tighten the other side, move on to the top side. Okay, now that we're back up here, we'll go ahead and run our grease line. Now when you push it in, you'll feel two little clicks. That's how you know you've got it set all the way in. 2 clicks there, perfect. Next we will grab our 4mm Allen key, run this back in. Nice and snug. Yeah, just like that. Okay. One bearing. Two. Okay, once you've got your grease lines back plugged in, your set screws nice and tight, we can grab our cover and put it back on. Make sure not to squish or pinch any grease line when you put this back on. Always like to run my fingers along here, especially when you can't see the other side. Make sure we're not crushing that grease line. Get all of our washers back on here. Okay, 9/16 socket, run these down. Okay, I think that's just about it. So that concludes this episode of Tech Tuesday. I hope you learned something. Be sure to like and follow us on our social media platforms. And if you have a video idea that you'd like to see, drop it in the comments section below. Take care, everyone.